Hello and welcome live on Hangouts on Air. I'm Carl Mugline along with Noah Taborda here talking NHL as
And
the Philly
then Jake calls us, and then I'm guessing that's Jake. Is it Jake?
Probably. Is it Jake? Let's go see. Hello and welcome on air. I apologize for that quick interruption. I'm Carl Mugline, as I stated, along with Noah Taborda, talking NHL, and it's good to have you with us. Jake is apparently texting Noah as well. That's exciting. Noah, should we start the show over, or do you want to just keep going?
Well, we're live. Why not keep going? It is the early show.
True, it is the early show, which means no one really cares. All right, moving on. Today we're talking NHL, specifically NHL playoffs. We're going to go round by round, give you some fun superlatives, actually talk about real NHL awards, although I wish they were our fake ones because they're much more fun. We're going to laugh at some losers, go Sharks, and we're going to tell you who's probably not going to win the Stanley Cup, but who we think will. It's good to have you, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, so that brings us to our show and our first segment, which is basically just laughing at all those teams that lost. Personally, I'm a Sharks fan. First time in 10 seasons missing the playoffs. It was slightly depressing. And yet it had to happen at some time, because being the 8th seed and losing the first round every year wasn't going to work. Another fun team to laugh at, Buffalo Sabres. Aren't they fun to laugh at, Noah?
Yes.
Wow, long answer. Real interest from Noah. Well, I'm assuming he's texting or Snapchatting Jake. It's hard to tell which.
Yes.
And apparently Noah's here, so we won't get fined.
No.
Moving on here. That brings us.
The Sharks? Wait. Did we laugh at the Sharks?
We did laugh at the Sharks. We were moving on. We laughed a little bit at the Sabres.
Can we laugh at you? Wait, can we laugh at you? Can we laugh at Carl?
No, we're not allowed to laugh at Carl.
At fantasy hockey? Yeah!
Noah placed better in the league we were in fantasy hockey, although I did knock off the 1 seed because I was 8th going into the playoffs. That happened because I didn't care, because that also happened. Moving on, though, we've laughed at a couple losers. We've laughed at the Sharks, my personal team. We've lost to the Sabres, who successfully gotten #1 position for the NHL lottery, NHL draft lottery. A couple other teams that I think are fun to laugh at. The New Jersey Devils were easily the worst team in the tri-state area. That's something interesting. Shout out to Nick Bugadas, who's a Pittsburgh Penguins fan and smartly avoided the Devils. Good choice there. So as we continue on, though, Noah, is there any losers you would like to laugh at?
You! Ah!
Any NHL team losers, you are an awful person.
We didn't have the Kings yet, did we?
No, we didn't. And speaking of Jake Laker, that man who so rudely interrupted us, the Kings missed the playoffs. Defending Stanley Cup champions could not make it, and we'll have a little superlative for you later on with that. But
Comment. How many LA fans, how many people in LA who are proclaimed hockey fans do you think actually know the Kings missed the playoffs?
I'm thinking, let's go like 10%.
I'm pretty sure most of them think that either it's still the regular season, the Kings already run the Stanley Cup, or that they are in the playoffs.
Or all three. They could think they already won the playoffs while they're still in the playoffs while it's the regular season. It could happen.
Yes.
Yes. All right, that does mean that brings us to picking time. Picking time. All right, the first round of the NHL playoffs. There are 8 teams from each conference in the playoffs. That means 8 West, 8 East. I hope you can count to 16. Noah probably can.
No.
All right, that means we do have our matchups. The first matchup that approaches us, starting in the West, is the Pacific Division champion Anaheim Ducks taking on the Winnipeg Jets. Their first time in the playoffs as Winnipeg. So that's kind of exciting. Yay!
Or boo.
Okay. But we do need to look back. This is a time for reflection here on Hangouts on Air. Remember Ilya Kovalchuk, the star of the Atlanta Thrashers?
Yes, I do, actually.
Do you remember when you actually paid attention occasionally, Noah?
What?
You remember a time when you actually paid attention occasionally?
To what? Ilya Kovalchuk?
No, this show.
Yes, I do remember Ilya Kovalchuk.
All right, moving on to the actual pick. It is Anaheim versus Winnipeg. the Anaheim Ducks, #1 in the Pacific Division, while the Winnipeg Jets were 5th in the Central but got the wild card over those LA Kings. For them, you look to Winnipeg. They had 99 points in the regular season, a whole 10 points worse than the Anaheim Ducks. And with Anaheim, one thing to note, they were fairly even road and home, similar records. But the big difference is when you look to their goal differential, they actually had an impressive one, 20, plus 20. So they actually could have a shot here. You could look at this team. However, I think there is one thing that's going to absolutely demolish them in this playoff series, and I think that's just got to come down to goaltending. They got a really old fart as a goaltender. That is the only way I can correctly describe Ondrej Pavelec. I mean, he's just not great. So, with that in mind, I am picking the Anaheim Ducks to win this series in 5 games. Yes, it may be short, but Ondrej Pavelec is not good, to say the least. And so that is my pick. I am picking the Winnipeg of Jets. Wait, the Jets of Winnipeg? The Wets of Winnipeg? I think we're going with that. All right, back to Noah. Noah, right there. Who are you picking, Noah DeGorda?
I think you picked one game too long. I'm taking Anaheim in 4. First of all, John Gibson is on a hot streak. I mean, he's been playing great of late, and was a big reason why my fantasy hockey team made the final. Just gonna bring that up again, just for safe measure. Look, you make the playoffs, you're a good team, but Anaheim all year has displayed excellence. They finished off the year tied in points for the most in the Western Conference with St. Louis. On the other hand, you have Winnipeg, who was dead last in the playoffs. Look, that shows something. And as solid as Winnipeg is, as they are good away and home, there's a reason why Anaheim got there. And let's not forget that Anaheim has one of the best front lines.
We should not forget that.
In hockey. I mean, like, look, everybody would love to see Winnipeg win. Upsets are fun, except for Anaheim fans. Everybody would love to see Anaheim win, see the upset. But Anaheim's the odds-on favorite to win this game, and at the end of the day, I think they are a better team. And I think they're going to show that in 4 games.
All right, 4 from Noah, 5 from Carl. Either way, that is 9, which is more than the 7 you're allowed, so apparently we're wrong. Moving on to the next.
We have a viewer. There's a viewer, apparently.
There is a viewer, and it's probably Jake Liker. All right, moving on to the next.
Question. He should ask us a question. There's a Q&A section.
Or she. It could be a she viewer. Don't be sexist, Noah.
Wait. I don't think we shared it with any girls.
No, but what if it's a random girl? No, I think you're just that attractive. You just attract girls to watch the show.
Thank you, Carl.
I know. I'm such a sweetheart. All right, that brings us to the St. Louis Blues taking on the Wild of Minnesota. This is the St. Louis Blues, who had 109 points, were the #1 team coming out of the Central Conference Division. Central Conference, Western Division, tied for the Central Conference Division. They were tied for the conference lead with Anaheim in points, although Anaheim did take the tiebreak there, so they were technically the conference champions in the regular season, which would matter for if these teams make it to the Western Conference Finals. However, it does not matter early on. St. Louis will be taking on Minnesota, the 4th team out of the Central. They had 100 points and were 9 points below St. Louis. What we can see here is St. Louis was a team that was fairly dominant, I would say, most of the year. Noah, you got to look to the fact that they were tied in the West for top. West is a very, very good conference. They've got, I think, a more solid goaltending situation this year than they had in the past. You look to the fact that Brian Elliott played fairly solid, 2.27 goals per against average, which is lower than he had been allowing over his career, almost 0.2 goals less. And he's really settled into his own, Brian Elliott has in St. Louis. He was a goalie that bounced around a lot. He's been with Ottawa, he's been with Colorado, but he's really settled in at St. Louis, and this is a year where he's done fairly well. This has been a really good year for him. So, yeah, I like that fact for them. When you move to the other side, you got to look to Minnesota. For Minnesota, I mean, here's the deal with Minnesota. They're nice people. They really are. But the issue with them comes down to the fact that they played 3 goalies for at least 19 games this year. 3. Backstrom, Cooper, and Dubnyk. And now it's hard to say. Well, Dubnyk has been the one and has been fairly good. It's just hard.
It's pronounced Kemper.
It's pronounced Cooper.
Get it? Bet.
Are you actually? How are you going to look this up? Nobody cares about Darcy fill in the blank name pronunciation.
I do. I don't care if I'm wrong.
Well, while he does that, we're gonna look to the fact that Zach Parise was the leading scorer with 61 points, and that's a fact. So while he continues to look this up, I will give my pick. I am picking the Minnesota Wild losing in 7 games. Ooh, got you. And the St. Louis Blues move on to the next round, but I do think this could be a fairly tight series. Noah, your pick, your games.
Find the pronunciation.
I told you couldn't. It's okay, Noah. We forgive you, and we assume that I'm right. Now your pick for this series.
Wrong.
Pick for the damn series, Noah.
All right. Carl, I'll agree with you the Blues are winning, but it's blasphemous to criticize their goal situation. Devin Dubnyk had a great year. He had a great year. He was not too good. Don't praise Elliott and then go around bashing Dubnyk, basically. Dubnyk was a much better goalie than Elliott. Get out! Get out! Run away! Run away, young child! Run away! But in pick, I agree. Yay!
Wow! That was a lot of bashing for a lot of agreement.
Just look at the team, though. The team is so... they have such a good team.
They do have a team. It's true.
It's
an NHL team.
Pietrangelo, Shattenkirk, Stastny, O'Shea, Bax. It's a great team. Great team.
I gotta say, it's too bad that there's no shootouts in the playoffs. Otherwise, that would pick the Blues in every single round. Because I'm pretty sure they would just try to get it 0-0. Like they just hold the puck in the corner so they could just have TJ Oshie go out and win every single shootout.
I mean, let's be honest here. Would you rather have Schwartz, Berglund, and Reeves, followed by Porter, Backes, and Oshie, or Parise, Granlund, and Pominville, followed by Vanek, Coyle, and Stewart? And then defense, Suter and Brodin are one of the best defensive pairings. Look at this. You've got Pietrangelo, Bouwmeester, Mikulik, Shattenkirk. Just those top 4. That's a great top 4 to have for defensemen. Yay, Blue!
Although top 4 doesn't really matter. It's more like top 3 or top 6. Pick your number.
Blues are winning either way. It doesn't matter why.
All right, so we agree on the Blues. I don't think we care why. And I didn't get a game count from you on that.
Cinco.
All right, it is Cinco. Wow, another short. You picked a lot of short series, didn't you?
On this side, I really think this side is kind of pretty straightforward.
All right, that brings us to Vancouver versus Calgary.
Vancouver, done. 5 games.
5 games once again. Guess what, Noah? It's time to pick an upset. It's time. I'm picking the other way.
Calgary's poop.
Please insert criticism now. Ooh, Calgary is poop. That's some solid analysis.
Honestly, out of all the teams in the playoffs, if I could pick one team that I wouldn't pick to win it, if I had to pick, if you took away every team that's good and left me with just the teams that I think are losing in the first round, I would pick Calgary last. I would pick the San Jose Sharks to win the Stanley Cup despite not making the playoffs over Calgary, who are actually in the playoffs.
All right. To explain myself, here's Carl. Let's look to the fact. I love going to goaltending, as you can tell.
And then you bashed
Ryan Miller. Ryan Miller just got back from injury. He hasn't had a stellar season anywhere. His goals against average is almost at 2.5. Jonas Hiller has not had a stellar season. However, he has been better than Rick Miller has. Here's the biggest reason I'm picking them. This is a much hungrier Flames team. This is a young team with a lot of energy who's going to go out and get things done. Yuri Hudler has been stellar this year. Johnny Gaudreau could possibly be Rookie of the Year. I honestly think he's a very good pick for Rookie of the Year. Look at 64 points. And overall, this is a team that I think can get it done. And I think they have more firepower and more fire in their belly than Vancouver does. Vancouver's got a lot of people who've been here before, and they kind of, honestly, Vancouver's kind of the San Jose Sharks of Canadian teams. They lose a lot in the playoffs. And they're going to keep losing. And they dropped the series before. Look at LA Kings. That year the LA Kings came as an 8 seed. The 1 seed they beat was the Vancouver Canucks. Something to think about. So, that brings us to my pick. I have the Calgary Flames in, you're going to love this number, 6. So, you picked Vancouver in 5, I believe, was, Noah?
Yeah. You want to know why?
Yeah, I do.
Because even though Vancouver loses, at least most of the time they make the playoffs. This is the first year since 2008-2009 that Calgary is in the playoffs.
True.
And like you said, they're a young team. Young team equals lack of experience in the playoffs. And when it comes time to make the playoffs, it is very useful to have previous experience. So I'm going experience over Flames. And Flames go home. Not to say that this could be a great learning experience for them. And make them a much better team in the future. And I think them making it here is a testament to coaching and to the overall talent of this team and the will to win. So if they win this, I'm rooting for them because I don't like Vancouver. But I think that Vancouver at the end of the day is going to take it.
Okay.
Yay!
Oh, healthy discussion. And as for that, yes, it was the last time they did make the playoffs was in 2008-2009, and they have not made it past the first round of the playoffs since 2003-2004 when they made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals where they lost in 7 games to the Tampa Bay Lightning.
In 2008-2009.
It's true, they did lose to the Blackhawks in 2008-2009. They also beat the Canucks in that. The last time they won a playoff series, the first round matchup they had was the Vancouver Canucks.
They would go on
Alrighty.
The Sharks!
For the yeah, they did. And that was the first conference finals we ever made it to, too. The first of 3. We also lost one to Vancouver and Chicago.
Woo!
All the teams we've been talking about. I'm a sad person, and I'm so happy because we have a 5% chance of getting Connor McDavid in the draft now.
Oh yeah, you didn't get to see Carl every second. Wait, we have an even better chance. Now we have a 120.
Today it went up from 3.5 to 5. And I was so happy. And Noah rolled his eyes the entire time. And it was pretty entertaining for all. Alright, that brings us to our final series, and I believe this is the one that could get the most heated of all of these series. It is the Chicago Blackhawks.
Carl's picks are trash.
Versus
Ignore
Nashville Predators.
Ignore Carl.
Noah loves credibility, that's why he's on the show.
Ignore him. Ignore his next pick. Listen to the rest of his picks. Ignore this one.
Alright, Noah, I'll let you start. Who are you picking in this series and why?
What kind of question is this?
It's a question for you.
You're giving me a pretty straightforward decision here. It's the Nashville Predators, who, while they are a good team, don't get me wrong, you don't get the second seed, you don't end up, at least in the division, but you don't end up above the Blackhawks because you played worse than them. I think they're a good team. But this is a team that is going up against the best playoff team right now in the playoffs, because the Kings didn't make it, LOL. Jake, if you're watching. This is a team that gets it done in the playoffs. Even last year when they didn't make the Stanley Cup Finals, same situation they are in this year, mind you. They made it to the Western Conference Finals and lost in 7. Year in and year out, they make deep runs. And while I like Nashville as a team, they're going up against a team that gets it done in the playoffs. And while Pecorine may be a great goalie, Crawford holds his own in the playoffs, and I know Carl's just going to completely bash that and just go into his anti-Crawford rant. Okay, so Corey Crawford is to Carl as Greg Schiano is to Jake.
Yes, I'm sure all our listeners, all 2 of our future listeners will get that reference. Actually, they probably will, since one of them is Jake and one of them is you.
Also, Blackhawks are balanced at home at the road. Nashville isn't as balanced, and by the time that we go back to Nashville, Patrick Kane will most likely be back. And at that point, I think the Blackhawks are primed to take over, because once Kane comes back, I think the series shifts significantly in our favor. I think Vancouver's going to take the first 2 games away at home, followed by Chicago taking the next 2. And then I think once Kane comes back, we win the next 2 and win the series in 6.
So it is 6 for you. I'm taking Preds in 7. Preds in 7, here we go. 1. Reason number 1. Patrick Kane will not be back until sometime in the middle of the series. He was averaging over a point per game before he got injured. Jonathan Toews in 20 more games had 2 more points. Wow, I can count. To lead the team. And now we get to the main reason. And I'm not going to talk about Corey Crawford.
Oh, thank God.
I'm going to talk about Pecorine. Pecorine. Because Pecorine is one of the, I would say, 3 or 4 most talented goaltenders in the NHL. Okay. Whether or not his stats this year are somewhat close to comparable to Crawford's. He had the similar save percentage. However, when you look to Pecorine and his skills, his ability, Pecorine is the type of goalie who can actually carry a team. And I think that while Crawford is manageable, and I don't think Crawford drags down the Blackhawks, I think that Rinne has the ability to lift them up, especially without Patrick Kane as a scorer in the first few games, which will allow them to likely jump out to a 3-1 lead. They'll drop a couple when Kane comes back, and then they'll pick up the 7th.
They're not a good road team. Okay, and can we get off this? You just bashed us for. You bashed Toews for having only 2 more. He has more points than anybody on the Predators. So okay. I don't understand why having only 2 more in last game is a bad thing. And let's remember, we've been playing without Kane for a little bit now. It's not like Kane got injured 1 second ago, and we're just getting used to it. I think Rinne is a great goalie. But don't say, oh, he only has 2 more points.
By the way, also, if you take the top 3 combined, if you drop Kane from the Blackhawks, and you take Toews, Kane, and Hossa and compare them to Forsberg, Ribeiro, and Josie, those 3 are about equal in points total.
I mean, even if you take out Kane and just decide to go with Brandon Saad, we're about equal.
Okay.
Look,
I said I took out Kane. That was the whole premise.
Don't diss us for having only 2 more points. And let's remember, you don't diss Jonathan Toews. He's one of the best centers in hockey.
Oh, I'm not dissing him. I'm saying you guys lose a significant chunk when you lose Kane. I think that there is a significant part of the Blackhawks that are lost when they don't have Kane. Because not only is he the best offensive threat, he's the... You know what? It doesn't matter who has the C. Kane is the leader of that team.
Kane is the lead. Wait. Kane may be the best player on that team.
No, Kane is the big moment guy on that team. Kane is the guy who.
Agreed. But Jonathan Toews is without a doubt the leader of this team. Captain Toews. Oh, Captain, my Captain. Please do not diss. Oh, Captain, my Captain. Say he's not the leader of this team. No.
Okay, Noah. Here's what I'm saying. Kane's the guy who's gotten it done in the past in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Nashville can win a Game 7 at home with Kane in the lineup. All right, we've really got to get moving if we ever want to get through this show. We move now to the East. We made through a total of 4 picks. This could take a while. Moving into the East, I hope a little less contention. We start with Montreal, Ottawa. Carey Price, spoiler alert, is having a fantastic season so far. You compare this to, even though Montreal was 20th in offense this year, they still were first in their division. Absolutely impressive. They take on an Ottawa team that clinched the playoffs today, barely made it in, and I think that Carey Price can control this series. Montreal in 5 for me. Noah.
Same. That's all I gotta say. Carey Price, fantastic is understatement. I mean, legendary. That's a better word.
Legendary. We will talk about Carey Price quite a bit more when we get to our award section, I do believe.
Yes.
All right. Tampa Bay Lightning taking on Detroit. This is, 24 straight years for Detroit in the playoffs? An amazing streak for them. And they made it in actually fairly safely, and they take on the Tampa Bay Lightning in this one. The Tampa Bay Lightning have, of course, Steven Stamkos leading the way for them. I mean, what can you say other than stellar when you talk about him? On the other side, when we look to the flip side of this, we look at the Detroit team that is kind of in a transition period, I think is the easiest way to say, because they have the likes of Zetterberg and Datsuk leading the team in scoring, but you also have Tatar and Nyquist, who are second and third, who are kind of newer guys to the team, so it's kind of a transition period over there. So that's just something to look at. But when you talk about Tampa Bay, you have to talk about Steven Stamkos, but also Tyler Johnson this year, who tied Steven Stamkos in points with 72. Mm-hmm. So that brings us to the pick. And I feel like I talk about goalies way too much, but I don't think you can overstate goalies in the playoffs. Look to the fact that Ben Bishop has had a not stellar, but still there, 9.16 save percentage. Jimmy Howard, 9.10. It's enough of a difference. I don't think Detroit has enough firepower. Tampa Bay has enough experience. They were young. They've been young before. But here's the deal. Steven Stamkos is no longer a young player. He's a veteran. I think at this point you can call Steven Stamkos a veteran. He's 6 years into his NHL career. And I think he's got enough. And I think this team has enough to be able to beat. I think they have enough to be able to beat this Detroit team, who does have quite a bit of experience, and make it into the next round. And I have them in 7.
I agree on both fronts, games and pick. Look, there's a reason why Stamkos is considered such a threat. I mean, finishing second behind Alex Ovechkin for goal scoring on a good team. I mean, when you have a guy who can match Stamkos and Johnson in points, that's something impressive to have, and that's a very useful asset. And I think that combination could prove fatal for Detroit. And while I do think Detroit's a good team, and being a team like Detroit, you always are going to make it a close series because you have experience in these types of situations. I mean, it's been quite a while. In fact, it was, let's see, the last time they didn't qualify for the playoffs was 85-86?
Something like that, yeah. I believe it's been 24 years now. I think it's 24 straight years playoffs.
Pretty nuts.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's the long in sports.
Yeah, no, but I'm going Tampa Bay at the end of the day. I think that their road record will come back to haunt them, but for right now, I'm going to pick them to make it out the first round.
All right, that brings us to our next series. The New York Rangers taking on the Penguins of Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Penguins qualified today as they picked up the win over the Buffalo Sabres to barely make it in the playoffs. One big thing for the Penguins, Sidney Crosby played 77 games this year, his first fully healthy season in a very long time, and that's something they absolutely love. On the other hand, Evgeny Malkin's fully healthy, although he's been a little off of late. This is impressively a fairly healthy Penguins team, which is something I feel like we haven't said in a very long time.
Yeah,
you look to the flip side, you look at the New York Rangers. Last year they came out of somewhat nowhere to make the Stanley Cup Finals. I picked them. That's not the point here. When you look to this team, Rick Nash has since coming over from Columbus a couple years ago, I guess last year, has been stellar. He had 69 points this year to lead the team, and they've been solid. And so when we look to this series, there's a lot of experience on both sides in the playoffs. There's a lot of things that come into this. But, and I think you can guess where this is going, Marc-Andre Fleury is not fantastic. Marc-Andre Fleury is not Henrik Lundqvist. And for those reasons, I will be picking the New York Rangers to win this one, but in a fairly tight 6 games.
Don't yell at me. Don't yell at me.
You're picking Pittsburgh.
But I'm picking Pittsburgh, and this is revenge. I don't know how you forgot to mention this, but it was last year, in the same situation, that the New York Rangers bounced the Pittsburgh Penguins from the NHL playoffs in what would be a run to a loss in the Stanley Cup Finals. And this time it's time for a little payback. And it's going to come at the hands of the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's going to be Sidney Crosby leading the way. And look, in a career, you have certain defining moments. He's already got a Stanley Cup. Yeah. This is going to be the series where I think Stanley Johnson, I must have said. Stanley Johnson is going to make the move. Oh. Stanley Johnson, he's been pondering his decision whether or not he wants to go to the NBA draft. He's going to decide to go to the NHL draft and be an early pick for the Penguins and be allowed to play in this series. No, Sidney Crosby, I think this is going to be that series where he absolutely dominates, just takes over, and leads the Penguins to a 6-game victory over the Rangers.
So we both pick in 6. The question for us is which team wins in 6.
And look, this could backfire completely in my face. Mm-hmm. It could backfire completely.
Yeah.
But I think Pittsburgh's a team that can pull it off. When you have Malkin and you have Crosby, even if they're not playing at the top of their game right now, it still gives them a shot to win. So I'm going with them. Yay!
Yay! Although, I gotta say, we've agreed on all 3 games, and 2 of 3 teams so far. This has been a nice experience, Noah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, now it is the Capitals versus the New York Islanders, tied at 101 points. Very close teams in the regular season. They split the season series 2-2. I mean, this is like splitting hairs when you go to these 2 teams. On one hand, you have the Washington Capitals, led by no other than Alexander Ovechkin, the leading goal scorer in the NHL, who had a total of 53 goals, 81 points, along with his sidekick, Nicholas Backstrom, who had 60 assists this year. They are a high-powered offense led by a high-powered first line with a couple of D-men in John Carlson and Mike Green who can really score. Sitting behind them is Braden Holtby, who's first jumped onto the scene during a playoff run, and this season had a solid 9.23 save percentage and a 2.22 goals against average. In the other corner, we have the New York Islanders. In their last season in the Nassau Coliseum before next year moving to Brooklyn, because the New York Islanders next year are taking their talents to Brooklyn, because who doesn't want to be in Brooklyn? I mean, Jay-Z's in Brooklyn. You look to John Tavares, 86 points, 38 goals, was 1 point away from taking the scoring title this year. I think we have to tell this story. Jamie Benn was down 3 points entering today's game against the Nashville Predators in the points race to John Tavares. He picked up 2 points, and in the third period, with 2 minutes and 5 seconds left, he scored an empty net goal. So you're like, oh, it's going to end up tied. Preds put their goalie back in. Didn't seem like much was going to happen. Well, then, Ben makes an incredible play, keeps the puck in, and with 9 seconds left, he gets the assist to take the scoring title away from John Tavares in one of the more outstanding performances we've seen to take away a scoring title in memories of people taking away scoring titles, which probably isn't that many. But back to the issue at hand, John Tavares. He's played stellar. There's a lot of people who have been more like role players on this team. When you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players, all over 40 points other than Tavares. So no real stellar players, none of those over 60. However, a lot of guys who have been chipping in well. And then you go to the backside. Yaroslav Halak has been a difference maker, although has not been perfect in net so far this year. And I'm going to pick this series, I go to the thing that Noah likes to use a lot, which is how teams have done in the playoffs. And while I know the Islanders haven't been there in a while, the Capitals have lost a lot of first-round series. A lot. Alexander Ovechkin can score any day of the week, but it seems like whenever this Capitals team enters in a playoff series, they end up the loser of that series. So when you look also to the fact that, especially when the Islanders are at home, they're going to be really hungry for victories. They really want to win there at home. In their last year in the Nassau Coliseum, it may be a dump, but anytime a team is in their last game at a stadium, it really is something special. I remember the same thing when the Twins were playing back in the Metrodome for their last year. Everybody knew it was more fun to play baseball outdoors, but it's still something special when you're leaving a stadium for the last time. So that brings us to the pick, and it is Islanders in 7. Noah.
Well, after a pick that took him at least 7 games to make, I get a turn. In New York Islanders in 6. For all the reasons Carl stated, it's been too many. Too long on this pick.
All right, that means
I think by now the Coliseum's already been torn down. Carl, you missed it. The Stanley Cup is already over.
Well, this does bring us to the best segment, I believe, of our show. It's Superlatives time. Noah, would you like to start us out with one of your superlatives?
All right, should I start us off with the better one or the worst one?
Probably the worst one.
All right, it's still not too bad.
No, it's not.
All right. Most likely to have the whole team suffer career-ending injuries before the series starts goes to drumroll. Oh, your drumroll. Where's your drumroll? The Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins. Out of all the playoff teams, the most injuries, not to mention the aforementioned. Wait, the Penguins somehow healthy going into the playoffs? Well, it wouldn't surprise me if now half the team died. Just straight up through. Done.
I'm thinking right now, just because of that, I think that is the most likely team to have a nuclear. Pittsburgh is the most likely town to have a nuclear bomb hit in the United States, just because of that. All right, my first.
Nuclear bomb has only a blast radius of where the Penguins are.
Good point. We don't want to kill anybody else in Pittsburgh. We just want to kill the Penguins.
I don't want to kill them.
The worst matchup, if you ask the NHL offices, that would be the Nashville Predators and the Tampa Bay Lightning making it to the Stanley Cup Finals. 2 really bad hockey markets. And last year you had the New York versus LA matchup. They were drooling. This would be disaster for them. And honestly, I think it'd be pretty funny to watch Gary Bettman pull out the remaining hair he has behind his receding hairline. Noah, your second superlative.
All right, and this goes out to the one and only Jake Liker. Most likely to win the Stanley Cup without ever playing in the playoffs, the LA Kings.
There's a way.
Yeah.
And you know what? Never say never.
Look,
never say never.
LA has found ways to do it before, and to be fair, most LA fans probably don't even know their team isn't in the playoffs, so they'll probably have a Stanley Cup celebration either way.
True. Who doesn't want to have a party?
To clarify, Providence winning their game means they qualify for the Stanley Cup final, right?
Absolutely. All right, our final superlative. Most likely to lose a playoff game just so they can play at home again. I talked about them right before this. The New York Islanders. Watch them be in Game 6. Wait, are they? No, they're the away team, aren't they? Game 5 with a chance to close out the series. They go on the ice and they're just like, nope. Just walk back off. They're like, we want to play at home. Just because they know they're going to lose every single game in the next series. Actually, they probably won't. I have that as a tight series, but I won't tell you who wins. All right, that brings us to the next series. And we begin in the Western Conference with the Anaheim Ducks versus the Calgary Flames, who I had picking. Different matchup. And for me, it is Anaheim in. We're going to go Anaheim in 5. I think the reasons that Calgary was able to beat Vancouver are not going to be able to beat Anaheim. I think that they're different areas that Calgary exploited, so I picked the Anaheim Ducks to move on to the conference final.
To make it quick, I got Anaheim in 6.
And that was over Vancouver.
Vancouver.
Okay. I have St. Louis, Nashville. You have St. Louis, Chicago.
You made the wrong pick. You don't get the fun series. Blues Blackhawks is one of the best series you could possibly get. Carl, come on. Don't you want to see Blues Blackhawks?
Oh, I have more. But see, you also could have had Islanders Rangers, and you picked Rangers Penguins. So no, you picked Penguins Islanders.
If I pick Rangers, will you pick the Blackhawks?
No.
God, Carl!
I feel like that was the whole reason you picked that. You just wanted leverage, so I would pick the Blackhawks.
No, I originally had it. It's on my sheet.
Sure. All right, moving on. I've got St. Louis winning this in 7. I believe Noah has Chicago, and I want to say let's go 7.
7, correct. Last year was a great series. This year it'll be a great series. But we're moving on. Best playoff team in the NHL that's actually in the playoffs. Yay!
Right. Montreal versus Tampa Bay Lightning. That is one team, and that is another. One is Canadian. One is in one of the worst hockey markets possible. Can we just talk about how Florida has 2 NHL teams? I still feel a little like Florida has 2.
They have 1, Carl. They have 1.
They have Florida, Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay.
They have Tampa Bay.
Florida almost made the playoffs. They were like 5 points out.
But they didn't make the playoffs, did they?
Okay, you know what, Noah?
When was the last time they made the playoffs?
Picking, Noah? Who are you picking?
When was the last time Florida Panthers? I'm picking the Florida Panthers! No.
3 years. It was like 2 years ago.
Really? No.
It was super recent. Yes, they had that one weird season.
2011, 2012. And then they lost 4-3 in the first round.
I know, it was close.
They didn't win. Alright.
Who do you have? Just make the pick.
Carey Price. Montreal. Yay!
Carey Price.
5.
Oh, see, I have Carey Price. Montreal. Yay! In 6.
Montreal's home. They win the first 2. They're gonna win 1 on the road. No, they won't. That's 2. Yeah, 6 seems about right, but I'll still say 5.
Okay. All right, then we'll bring in 2 different series for us. I have the Rangers and Islanders. You have the Penguins and Islanders. Well, since I have the New York Rangers winning this in 7, and this is a series I see home winners every single time, which is hilarious because they're going to be either way. The Rangers are going to have like more. The Rangers will probably have like a third of the Coliseum filled. I still feel like the Rangers are going to take this. In 7, I think that every single home team is going to win their game on this one. The nice thing, you don't have to do the hotel thing for the players here. Like, it's kind of nice being able to play this series. So that's my pick. Rangers.
You don't do it like NFL teams?
What do NFL teams do?
They go to hotels even if they're playing at home normally.
No, because the thing is with NFL teams, they're playing like 1 game a week. It's not like a series.
True. But I feel like that could give them a lot more distractions. I think the NHL should look into this. Suggestion from Noah Florida.
Well, you know my stepbrother Jasper. He was playing on a 16 AAA team, and they stayed at a hotel. They stayed at a hotel. They're like a 16-year-olds, and they got to stay in a hotel for a game at home, for a tournament at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another tournament where they beat the Chicago team.
All right. Cool.
Yep. Yeah.
You have a New York team?
What?
You have a New York team winning?
I have the New York Rangers winning.
I have a New York team winning.
You have the Islanders.
Yes.
You have the Islanders in this.
Is the passing of the torch. Look, Crosby may be the best player, but Tavares, who is now like Crosby's like, it seems like Crosby Tavares is like a very common like, it's like the head-to-head now for best player. Even though Crosby is still considered the better player, I think Tavares gets the best of him because it used to be like Alex Ovechkin versus Sidney Crosby. That's the matchup everybody wanted to see.
And the league in goals.
I know. But I think it's Tavares Crosby now, and it makes sense. And they've already played each other once before. But this time, I think Tavares gets the upper hand, and I think that the New York Islanders move on in 6 to play the Montreal Canadiens.
All right, and that's the pick of you. We both have a New York team playing the Canadiens. And then on the other side, I have Atlanta, St. Louis. You have I said Atlanta. Wow. Yeah. Turns from the dead.
They're not even a team.
I know. The Anaheim Ducks playing the St. Louis Blues.
Don't worry, I had Stanley Johnson leading the Penguins to the victory over New York.
The Coyotes are going to draft Stanley Johnson. Is better than any of the players they have right now. Oh boy! All right. Wait, we're not actually picking those games. I lied. This is the chance where we get to pick the real NHL awards.
Yeah!
Yay! First, the Vezina. Can we just get this over with? Carey Price.
Carey Price.
It's not even close. Jack Adams for best coach. I have Barry Trotz from Nashville. I really like the work he's done there.
I got Bob Hartley from Calgary. Yay!
Both Western Conference playoff teams. Woohoo! All right. Then we go to the Norris Trophy. I like PK Subban of the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, Carey Price did a lot, but PK Subban did a lot as his defender. PK Subban. Wow. I've actually called him Pecan. Can we call him Pecan Pie instead of Pecan Subban? I'm keeping it that way. We're gonna call him Pecan from now on.
What happens if I look up Pecan Subban?
I'm actually really curious now. Who's your Norris Trophy pick?
Oh. My Norris Trophy pick is Pecan Subban as well.
It actually comes up with PK Subban, and then there's a Twitter that is Pecan Subban. And it's some random 6th grade class president.
Yay!
That's so entertaining.
Pecan Subban. It's the lost brother.
All right.
There's Malcolm, PK, and Pecan. He didn't really do well in hockey. He stuck to a career in floor hockey. The skating part.
Really? I mean, I heard he was didn't he end up like in an insane asylum because he was nuts? Or
that's a horrible pun. Get out! First you call him Pecan Subban, and now you do that. Ugh. All right, let's move on.
Can we from Pecan? All right, we can. Move on. Subban. All right, that moves us to the Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year. I like Aaron Ekblad, the first overall pick. He played for Florida of the Panthers, and I think Noah may have picked him too by the thumbs up and blue.
I did.
Yay! All right, then the Hart Trophy. Again, Carey Price. Okay, move on.
What if not Selkie? The Selk.
Oh, I forgot to pick the Selkie. I was looking it up, and then I just kind of moved past it.
Let's just say Taves and ignore Bergeron, and then go to Hart, which is Price.
All right, perfect. It's Hart, Price, and now we move on to the Western Conference Finals. I have Anaheim, St. Louis. You have
Blackhawks, Anaheim.
Yeah. So who do you have winning?
Blackhawks. Blackhawks. Let's get real here. They were the pick by most who weren't picking the Kings to make it out, and they're still the best playoff team in the playoffs.
So who do you?
Chicago in 6.
6. I have Anaheim in 6 over St. Louis. Although, can I point something out? I had the Rangers going to the conference finals. You had the Blackhawks going to the conference finals, and we eliminated both of those teams in the first rounds for one of us. So one of us, actually no, what's going to happen is both those teams are going to lose, and we're both just going to have awful brackets.
Please no.
All right, so that brings us to New York Rangers playing the Montreal Canadiens. I'm picking Atlanta. I said Atlanta again. Jeez, Anaheim in 6. Rangers Montreal for me. Islanders Montreal for you. Do the Islanders have enough offense to beat Carey Price and Pecan Subban?
By the way, the score is now 2-1, Carl. And that means, by the way, the higher score loses. he has Pecan Saban and Atlanta, and I of course have Stanley Johnson.
Okay.
At least
doesn't come from behind win too.
Sport. At least you got the same sport.
Pecan Subban is the same sport?
Ignore the pecan part, and yes. You got 1.5 from the same sport. Actually, Atlanta doesn't really exist, so it probably counts as 1 total.
But Stanley Johnson has Stanley in it.
So half. So it's still 1 to half.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. Who do you have in this series?
We both have New York versus Montreal, but I have Islanders and you have Rangers. Needless to say, Pecan Saban, maybe one of the best defenders, if not the best. And Price, like you said, Price and Saban, you win. You win. No need to continue. Montreal, Stanley Cup Finals.
I got Montreal in 7. I think it's actually a fairly tight series.
I have in 6, by the way.
Okay. So, before we move on to the finals, I have Anaheim versus Montreal. You have the Blackhawks versus Montreal. I thought we could recollect on the season.
No.
Just a moment. Wow. I feel a little hurt, honestly.
No. No, we can't.
All right, moving on to the finals.
Pecan Saban is probably the greatest player to ever play the game.
Oh, boy. Shout out to Brendan Albertson. Moving on to our finals picks. Who do you have winning Stanley Johnson?
The Stanley Johnson Cup goes to not Pecan Saban. The Chicago Blackhawks win. Look, I've said it over and over and over again. Whichever team comes out of the West is going to win it. And it's the Blackhawks. And the Blackhawks are champions.
Yeah, I disagree. I've got Montreal winning.
Well, you are wrong.
And you are Noah.
Emma?
I don't know. Are you? You have photo ID on you? Okay, good enough. You are Noah. Clearly a picture of you.
All right, so I'm guessing you have Montreal. Not that
I
you
do have Montreal. Oh, how many games did you have Chicago in?
6.
I had Montreal in 6.
We had a lot of those. Oh my god, we have 0 viewers. I think Jake just left.
Jake. Poor Jake. Missing this.
Oh, he's back!
Whoa! Wait, watch it not be Jake. Watch us be talking to like some random stranger and they're like, Jake person.
That would be really awkward. Okay, please, if you're there, ask a question. If you are Jake, ask a Jake question. If you're not, say your name.
Or just ask a real question.
No, it's 0 viewers now. Dang.
No, you need to go view it so we can act like we have a viewer.
Ugh, people just don't like us very much. All right, Carl. I think we should wrap up.
I think we should, too. I'm Carl Mogeline. It was a pleasure doing this. Thank you to Noah Taborda. You can find him on Twitter at Noah Taborda. That's pretty complicated. And it's Noah with an H, by the way, not Noah with an N-O-A, which is weird. I'm on Twitter at Carl, that's Carl with a K, _PM, so Karl _PM. Follow us both, mainly me, and go like Infinity Sports Network on Facebook, because that's where we're from. That's where we do our business, and plus there's some people who are pretty cool over there. And I think that is about it, so thank you for joining us, and go Sharks, 5%, baby.
Well, we'd like to make some corrections to certain moments on this show. 1. Incorrect, Carl. Carl meant to say Blackhawks winning it all. 1. 2. That would be the correct pick. 3. He doesn't want you to follow him. He wants you to follow me. Go Blackhawks. Have a fun Stanley Cup playoff hunt, and enjoy the rest of your sleep.